just for AV, we are ready to go live, and I'll let the chair know when we're live.
Great, thanks, Simon. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee meeting, a special meeting of June 11th, 2025. We do have quorum with 3 members, but 2 others are on their way. But as we always say, we'll start on time if we have quorum. My name is Kathy Daigle-Gammon, Chair and District 1 Councillor for Waverley, Fall River, Musquodoboit Valley. So we'll call the meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. And we'll do the land acknowledgement in that the Halifax Regional Council is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. Forgive my voice. We were talking a lot last night. With us today, our clerk is Simon. Beside me here, our solicitor is William Hetfield, and to my left is Maggie McDonald, our Executive Director of Parks and Rec. So we'll go on with the approval of the order of business and the approval of additions or deletions. Simon, do we have any additions or deletions?
Thank you, Chair. We have received no requests for additions or deletions through the clerk's office.
Thank you very much. Could we have a motion then to approve, please? Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. And a second? Looking over there.
Oh, yes, second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purdy, for the second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Welcome, Councillor Cuddle. A call for declaration of conflicts of interest. Yes, Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's not really a conflict of interest, but I would like to say that it is Councillor Cuddle's birthday today. So I just want to say happy birthday. Thanks for coming to CPED. You're welcome.
Happy birthday. We won't ask how, oh no. Okay, so now we move on to public participation. The speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. We do ask that comments are respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. And the clerk will give a verbal notice when we have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is complete. So the first person that we have to speak with us today is Judith Cabrita. And I do hope I pronounced the last name correctly. There's a place right up here at the front. Simon will show you. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
And thank you for the opportunity to present to the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee on this matter of the report for the functioning of the Wanderers Block. The Friends of Public Gardens mandate since 1984 is to protect, preserve, promote, and celebrate the Halifax Public Gardens for the ongoing enjoyment of the general public in recognition of its uniqueness as a national resource and as a national historic site, and as well to promote the preservation and protection of structure of historical and aesthetic significance in the surrounding environs of the public gardens. The gardens experience over 1 million visitors a year, and what HRM has in the Halifax Public Gardens is truly precious, as recognized by the national designation and as well by the municipal designation in HRM's Registry of Heritage Properties. The commemorative integrity statement that guides the stewards of historic sites places value and importance on its setting, surrounding landscape, and the environment, and TFPG has adopted that stewardship role and responsibility within the Halifax Public Gardens. One of the main parts of my presentation today is about the absence of engagement with the Friends of the Public Gardens during this important development of the common lands. We are happy to see the importance of the public gardens respected in the Halifax Common Master Plan, but do not believe the important parts of this plan are being followed even in these early days of implementation. Programmatic links between the Wanderers grounds and the public gardens are not being created, but rather the new designation of the Wanderers grounds is creating a new level of tension. Throughout the Halifax Common Master Plan, the gardens are constantly referred to as a unique respite for contemplation and relaxation. This is true nearly all the times, except for the regular occurrence of rock concert type activity across the road. This development does indeed interfere with what has been recognized as one of the most important parts of the gardens. The soccer games being quieter, the announcer not yelling at top volume for the sake of excitement, and less loud music does not undermine the experience of a soccer game. On the other hand, the sound levels that we experience when a game is in session creates a transformative impact on one's ability to enjoy the gardens. And it eliminates our opportunities to present chamber music or other music within the gardens or a book reading, etc. Nobody can talk to one another. They can't hear. So anyone with urban planning experience that gives an honest look at these tenants' neighboring sites would see that a significant change is taking place, and what we must ask ourselves, at what cost? The Common Master Plan recognizes the role of the Friends and suggests engagement with us, and we have had none. We have asked repeatedly, right up to the mayor, for a place at the table. Your commission said to consult with tenants, stakeholders, and the public. TFPG is definitely a stakeholder. Another part of the Halifax Common Master Plan that is clearly not being followed is maintaining respectful relationships with the Friends of the Public Gardens. We, the board of the Friends of the Public Gardens, are going to continue to work with our members and conduct our own studies about the impact of noise from the burgeoning soccer stadium.
30 seconds remaining.
My two asks are to be crystal clear, are more respectful and in-depth consultation with the Friends, which your master plan mentions as an important ally, and find ways to address our main concern with the growing stadium, which is sound levels that interfere and could perhaps harm the precious rarity of the public gardens and certainly affect the birds and the animals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. Our next speaker is Tamsin Black. Oh, sorry. Councillor Cuddle had a question. Judith, apologies. I didn't see Councillor Cuddle buzz in there with a question for you.
Yeah, thank you, Judith, for coming and speaking with us. I just had a question about the Friends of the Public Gardens. How long has that association been around for? And how long have you been part of that?
It's been around for 40 years. It was incorporated as a society and a charity in 1984. And I've actually been there in and out those 40 years. But wherever my career took me, I was vacant, and when I was in Halifax and able to find the time, I was at the gardens with the gardens, Friends of the Public Gardens. I actually was there before we were incorporated. I ran a little tea house in the powerhouse for the gardens, and other things that I did for them. Right. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Judith Cabrita, president of the Friends of the Public Gardens.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for your stewardship over all these years.
Thank you, Councillor Cuddle. The next speaker is Tamsin Black. One can speak for 5 minutes and then the second for 5 minutes. Thank you. And our second speaker, I guess, is Angie Holt. Okay, so Tamsin Black.
Angie Holt. Yeah. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you as well to the staff who worked hard to produce the report before you. We recognize the magnitude of the work that has gone into this, and we think FBM did an exceptional job bringing together the interests of all the parties. We do have some concerns within the report. It does not fully reflect the significance of the community impact of Halifax Lancers and the Horses of Halifax. Our reach goes far beyond our membership, touching the lives of thousands across the city every year. Lancers is more than a riding school. We're a trusted community anchor, a living piece of Halifax's heritage, providing year-round public benefit from the heart of the city. As the only tenant with year-round operations on the Wanderers Block, our presence is not only consistent, but deeply rooted and evolving. Through therapeutic riding, equine-supported wellness, and inclusive public programs, we create access for individuals with physical, intellectual, cognitive, and psychiatric disabilities, people who often face significant barriers to participation elsewhere. We are proud that hundreds engage in structured programs annually, but even more compelling is the thousands of spontaneous, joyful interactions between the public and our horses. These are not passive moments. They are community connection in its most natural form. The report suggests that expansion would yield only modest growth for Lancers. With all due respect, we must disagree. Lancers currently delivers close to 3,000 hours of programming, which is more than all the other tenants on the Wanderers Block combined. The proposed expansion would allow us to double our public summer programming, more than double our therapeutic riding, and triple our equine-supported wellness programs. These are not small gains. They are transformative outcomes that build better lives, something we've been doing for over 90 years. Our model is sustainable. We're powered by earned revenue, grants, fundraising, and community partnerships. The report also raises concerns about horses in an urban setting. We want to be very clear. Animal welfare is not just a consideration for us. It is a core value. Our herd care adheres to the National Farm Animal Care Council's Equine Code of Practice, and any expansion would do the same. Quality of horse care is not determined by acreage, but determined by good management. Lancer horses live in a setting that balances routine, rest, stimulation, and space. Every 2 weeks, 2 horses rotate out to a rural property for downtime in open pasture. Each August, the entire herd relocates to a rural setting, which also allows us to make repairs and improvements to our 117-year-old heritage building, which is owned by HRM. Our horses are closely monitored by equine veterinarians and professionals who consistently commend their health and well-being. We also maintain a thoughtful adoption and retirement program, ensuring that every horse moves on with care and dignity when it's time for a new chapter. Lancers is not just in Halifax, we are for Halifax. The expansion is about strengthening something rare, a place where nature, inclusion, healing, heritage, sport, and community connection converge right in the urban core. We urge you to see this proposal not as a risk, but as an opportunity to grow something that already works, already serves, and already belongs to the people of this city. Thank you.
Can we play the video now?
urban nonprofit barn located in the middle of downtown Halifax. And we've been here since the 1930s, so we've been here for a very long time, making riding accessible to everyone.
The Halifax Lancers Therapeutic Riding Program has been around since the 1960s, and its mission, along with all of our other programs, is to build better lives through horses and also provide accessibility to horses for people who otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity in their lives.
I came to Lancers at the age of 6 because of the therapeutic riding program. The horses were my legs as a child, and then the horse helped me build all that strength to be able to walk independently and live a full life as an adult.
I got a lot of nice horses. I get to groom them, and then I get to lead them out. So I really like being on the horse, and I get to steer the horse.
I've been volunteering with the therapeutic riding for about 6 years now. It was one of my first introductions to Halifax Lancers. I came to see what a wonderful place it is and how wonderful the horses are and how magic can happen between people and horses.
Accessibility really is within reach. You just have to be intentional about it, make it a priority to help make it happen.
Come on, Ben. Come on.
People with disabilities can do anything. They can get on a horse here and ride in our riding program. They can offer a lot to other organizations and businesses.
Please go ahead, and if you just want to introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Tamsin Black. I'm the past president of Halifax Lancers Board of Directors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. When we began this journey in 2018, our vision was simple and achievable: to build a second arena that would allow us to expand our programming and reach more people, something our community clearly needs and repeatedly asks for, as evidenced by our 10-year waiting list. At that time, we were told that the Bell Building, set to become surplus in 2023, could be part of our future. Its foundation could accommodate additional horses, and its location was ideal. Renovations were required, but the costs were manageable. Early estimates put that new arena at about $1 million. Ambitious, but certainly within reach for a grassroots organization like ours. Fast forward to the present, and the report you've been given, it projects costs of $12 million to $20 million. That's a significant departure from where we started, and we believe the actual costs could be much lower. We've learned a lot in the last 8 years, and we'd like to offer 3 key points. First, the cost estimates in the second report are not reflective of our needs. The report references a $9.1 million arena. The structure we require is essentially an empty shell. That estimate does not reflect the practical or cost-effective options available. We engaged a local developer who recently completed a fully insulated, wood-framed indoor arena right here in Nova Scotia. It met all building requirements, visually complements historic architecture, and it came in at $2.5 million, a fraction of the figure in this report. The staff report also incorrectly implies that our $2.5 million was for a prefabricated metal farm building. This was a secondary option and not one we're proposing. We provide this to provide transparency not only to you but to the public, so no one is left with the impression that we're proposing an extravagant facility. We're not. We're proposing a feasible, functional, and community-serving expansion, nothing more. Point 2 is asking us to secure funding before receiving approval. It's unreasonable. The staff report recommends that tenants return with funding plans. This needs to be addressed. We cannot raise money for a project that does not yet exist. No funder will support a concept that lacks municipal approval. As a nonprofit powered largely by volunteers, that's an unrealistic burden. If approval is granted, we can move forward with securing funding based on realistic costed plans. We've done this before. Third, Halifax has historically underinvested in Lancers. When we began planning to self-fund this expansion, we assumed that was our only path. But through this process, we've realized something striking. Halifax invests heavily in active living, public recreation, and inclusive wellness across the Commons, but not in Lancers. I have 3 sentences left, if I could. Thank you.
Yes, you can proceed. Would you like to just move the mic a little bit closer to your The microphone?
The mic, sir, sorry.
Thanks.
In 90 years of service, Lancers has received no operational support from HRM, not even basic maintenance such as snow plowing. Today we ask a fair question. Why does it appear that every part of Halifax Commons receives support except us? Last sentence. We are part of the fabric of this city. Our programs align directly with municipal goals for inclusion, wellness, and active living. We are one of the few facilities that operate year-round. We're not asking for special treatment. We've done the work, we have the experience, and most importantly, we have the will and the passion to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you both. I'll wait a moment. Yes, Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. Thanks for this presentation, and thank you, Chair, for allowing presentations today, because this being a special meeting, that normally isn't the case. So it's good to be able to hear from our really important stakeholders. So my question was just on the difference of costing between what HRM predicted for a new build and what you were able to bring as a alternative. And I'm wondering, can you explain the cost difference? Why such a large discrepancy, and what your new build would consist of?
I think it probably would be better to ask staff for some of it, but we know that the costing that we did was for just a basic arena like we have currently, and it also would be insulated, which ours isn't, and would have a viewing room. So I don't know why 9.1 million versus 2.5.
Okay, I'll ask when staff come later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purdy. See no other names on the list. Thank you both very much for coming and presenting. We appreciate it. The next name on our list, we have Mr. Howard Epstein. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I'm a resident of the Halifax Peninsula, homeowner, payer of property taxes, and a member of the board of the Friends of the Halifax Common. I'm also a former member of this council and a longtime MLA for Central Halifax, Halifax-Chebucto. Given the extent of my involvement in political life and current ongoing membership in public organizations, I make claim to actually being fairly closely in touch with public opinion, and I have to say that public opinion is not in favor of the proposal for the development of the Wanderers grounds as a professional sports venue, or in particular the proposal from the soccer club. I'm asking that this committee, instead of passing on the report to council, sends it back to staff and asks staff to do a better job and to correct some of the matters that have been drawn to your attention already. And I want to add to it three points that are quite important. One is, of course, the report has zero to say about traffic. I understand, of course, that council has been hugely preoccupied with traffic matters and on an ongoing basis and focused on the peninsula, and there's nothing in this report that explains why it is that having a big venue that would attract people in cars onto the Halifax Peninsula in greater numbers is in fact a desirable thing. The second is that there's an outright misstatement on page 11 with respect to community engagement over the Wanderers block. It's actually the case that when the master plan for the common was being developed, the Wanderers block was excluded from public consultation. Therefore, the statement on the middle of that that page that the Wanderers block has already been subject to public consultation is outright inaccurate. The third inaccuracy and problem has to do with the citation of Section 61, subsection 3 of the HRM Charter under the legislative authority section of this report. That's not the right section. The section that is relevant under the HRM Charter is Section 63, linked through that to Section 71. Section 63 says that the municipality may sell or lease property at a price less than market value for any purpose that the council considers to be beneficial to the municipality. It's apparent that the proposal that has come from the soccer club is for leasing long-term 30 years at less than market value, and that's obvious. And Section 63, therefore, is the relevant section. There is nothing in this report that explores in any way the various aspects of what that means. So what I'm saying to you is that not just that the report is flawed, but that given that Section 63 is the section that governs, that in fact this council would have no legal authority to go ahead and enter into a lease for something that is less than market value because, of course, there is no benefit to the municipality at all that has been pointed to or that can be pointed to. And in order to help you focus your thinking about this, I would like you to imagine that the Spring Garden Road Merchants Association came to council and said, how about you just sell us the public gardens? We'll give you $10,000 and we will take over administration of the public gardens. Anyone who buys something at one of our shops can have free admission. Otherwise, someone will have to just pay to get in, and we'll make the decisions. Now, of course, I would expect council to completely reject such a proposal, not just because there would be a derisory amount of money involved, but because the shift in responsibility would move out of the hands of council where it belongs into the private sector, with a benefit only to the merchants on Spring Garden Road, and the parallels between that and what is being proposed for the Wanderers grounds for the soccer club is just immediately obvious. And in fact, in order to help your thinking, I will say this to you. If your negotiators talk to the soccer club and come back with a deal, I'll give you whatever they offer plus $5, a better deal for HRM. Whatever they offer, I'll better it by $5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Epstein. Be careful if somebody actually takes you up on that, though. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to this municipality and to this province. Members of council, were there questions for Mr. Epstein? Nope. So there were no other names on the list. Just from a matter of process, Simon, we don't ask from the gallery because it's a special meeting and it was only those registered. Then I will. Thank you so very much. I will ask now 3 times. Is there anyone in the gallery that would wish to speak? For the second time, is there anyone from the gallery that would wish to speak? For the third and final time, if there's anyone from the gallery that would wish to speak. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 5. Losing the mic sometimes. Next is our presentation, the Dartmouth RBC Centre Mooseheads Training Facility Expansion Proposal. And we have with us Elizabeth Powell from Phantom Studios. And is it Ian Russell? Cam Russell. Mr. Russell from the Mooseheads rep. So thank you, and is it 10 minutes? You have 10 minutes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Are we able to share the presentation that we've got? Thank you so much. Okay, lead us off.
Okay, excuse me. First of all, happy birthday. My name is Cam Russell. I'm the general manager of the Halifax Mooseheads. I've been with the team for 25 years. I've been a head coach, I've been an assistant coach, and I've been the general manager for the last 18 years. What we're proposing here today is to expand our tenant space at the RBC Center in Dartmouth. We want to have built a 4,700 square foot addition. And in this addition, it would house a gym with recovery facilities, a shooting room, and we would also build a public washroom for all the people that are using the sports fields and the volleyball courts and the walking trails adjacent to RBC. Excuse me. The purpose for expanding, simply put, we don't have enough room for what we need. As a team, we have a hard time using our facilities. Our gym isn't big enough. We have to work out in 2 or 3 different groups. We have a lounge that only seats 3 to 4 players. We don't have a wellness area that would be good for the kids, for their mental health and their well-being. And what we would like to do is build a state-of-the-art facility that would attract the top talent in the nation. For the public, we see this as an incredibly positive step for them. Like I say, I've worked at the RBC Center ever since our practice facility was started there. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. I see hundreds and hundreds of people at the using the fields, using the volleyball courts, walking on the trails on a daily basis, especially on the weekends. And we've even had times where we've left our door ajar. We've had strangers just wander into our facility to use the washroom facilities. So I think that would go a long way. With regards to the building, I think you'll see it's going to be a beautiful facade. It's going to have a wall of windows next to the sports field, which gives lots of the young kids and even their families a chance to look in and see our facilities and watch the Moosehead players train and work out. I think all too often these young kids, they see our players signing autographs and scoring goals, but I don't think that they really understand the process and the work that goes into this. And I think that would be very inspiring to them, and especially promoting health and well-being as well.
So looking at the actual site itself, so my name is Elizabeth Powell. I'm an architect at Fathom Studio. And we were brought in to do some of the initial sort of concept and just sort of laying this out and looking at what we could potentially do for the expansion. So the RBC Center, as it is now, sits next to 2 adjacent sports fields and some volleyball courts. The proposed construction would expand on an existing bump out on the structure. So basically working within the framework of the architecture that's there. And then we are proposing a new public access universal barrier-free washroom. Here's a view of the RBC Center for Pat Arena as it is now. The area highlighted in red is where we are proposing putting the extension to the Moosehead's existing tenant space. This is a view of the existing floor plans. So in the north side there, next to the ice pad, the Mooseheads rent out and lease a space that they use for their current training facility. And I will use a cursor if anybody can see it, maybe. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there it is. So the gym, in terms of like the size of the gym that's there now, just to give a bit of a reference point as to why this is being asked for, that gym is quite tiny. This dashed in area here is where we are proposing that expansion. This is the proposed floor plan that we have at the moment, which has on the east side facing the sports fields. This is where that state-of-the-art gymnasium is being proposed with a shooting pad down at one end. We are proposing modifying some of the existing softscaping and hardscaping that exists right now between the building and the sports fields. And then in that upper northeast corner, this is where we are proposing providing that public access washroom. And then, Cam, if you want to. Yeah. And I'm just going to shoot back here if you want to talk about.
Okay, thank you. So what's included, looking at this expansion, we would have a dedicated warm-up area for the kids for stretching, for yoga, for meditation. I won't get into the gym equipment because I don't understand half of it, but basically hockey-specific training equipment that you wouldn't find at a normal gymnasium. We'd have a turf training track that would be 70 feet long, and we would build a shooting room where the kids could work on their puck skills and shooting. And for us, this, to put it bluntly, this is a game changer for us. I don't think there's another team in the Quebec League that has a shooting room. So this would be something very exciting for us. I know our coaches would be thrilled. We'd also have some modifications that we would make to our existing space. As I mentioned, we would put in a wellness area with a sauna, a steam room, and a cold plunge area. Like I mentioned, that's great for the mental health and the wellness of the players. We would also add a new lounge where our existing gym is. As I mentioned before, the lounge that we have right now is a couch and two chairs, so you basically have to be 19 or 20 before you can use a lounge just for lack of space. So having a new, bigger lounge would allow everyone to use this space, players to relax, whether they're watching TV or doing their homework or just having a bit of team building together.
Okay, so in terms of what the building is now, so this upper image here shows just a simple massing of the existing facility. The actual building face here doesn't really have a whole lot on it. It is a metal freezer panel with a couple of doors and some windows. It has a bit of a back of house feel. The expansion that we're proposing basically extends that bump out and then provides a large glazed area that looks directly into the gym. And then I will show this view here just from a slightly different angle. This is more sort of standing in the volleyball courts looking back. The proposed expansion provides the public access washroom on an existing sidewalk that is accessible to the public. There we go. Oh, yes. So in terms of what is being proposed here for the construction and timelines, the Mooseheads is proposing to bring in their own architecture and engineering partners, working with Bruno Builders, who would be responsible for the construction of the new addition and renovation to the existing facility. The timeline that they are looking for that is approximately 6 months for design and approximately 8 months for the construction itself. They're looking to start the construction as soon as possible. They would like to get this facility up and running, which is, I think, why this method is being proposed. Go ahead.
Okay, so what the Halifax Mooseheads are requesting is that HRM helps fund the construction of the shell of the building. We're looking for approximately $1.5 million to $1.625 million, and we will be the exclusive tenants of this new space. And just wrapping all this up, obviously, I spoke about the effect on the community. I think adding the washroom will be something that will tremendously help the people around there. I think it'll be great for the kids. With regards to our needs, I think most of you understand that the NCAA changed their rules recently, allowing players to play in the CHL now and retain their NCAA eligibility. That's wonderful for us. It allows us to scout and recruit and draft the top players in the nation now and even in Europe. The problem with that is that these players, when they turn 18, 19 years old, now they have the option to go play in the NCAA. So you would essentially have some of these players at 16 and 17, but you could possibly lose them at 18, 19 years old. And we've seen that with two of the teams in our league so far. And we just feel that building this facility will help put us on the level of the other NCAA organizations and universities and colleges. And we want it to be a step down when these players leave the Mooseheads.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cam and Elizabeth. We'll look to see if there are any questions for you from the members here. Councillor Cuddle.
Thanks. And nice to see you again, Elizabeth. It's been a while. Yeah, so beautiful design. Get the need, get the concept. I think I was going along with you until we got to the point about the financing, about HRM paying for the expansion for the exclusive rights of the Mooseheads. Just wondering if you could explain what is the current arrangement with the gym? That was HRM built that space and you're leasing it. Is that correct? And just what's the lease on that?
Yes, I believe the lease is.
It's coming up for end of term next year, with approximately $45,000 a year.
Yeah, it's coming up to the end of the term next year, and the lease is approximately $45,000 a year.
Okay, so I mean, that's where I'm going to have to ask staff some more questions about, how, if we build such a thing, what's the cost, cost recovery through the lease. I mean, the Mooseheads are a privately owned franchise, correct? Okay, sorry, I'm not a hockey player.
Sorry, correct.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cuddle. Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have a question here from Councillor Hensby. Would the public washroom be accessible to the soccer and volleyball field? Is there a gate through the fence? Is it able to be
Yes, it'll be
accessed?
perfectly accessible. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, for the volleyball, for the both soccer fields, and even the walking path.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it is a beautiful expansion concept. The money's a bit tricky. What would the ETA be for your ask? Are we talking like 2026?
The ETA for the ask of the money?
Yep.
That would be spring or fall next year.
Okay, and then I guess a question from Maggie, perhaps. What is the process when a private entity comes looking for funding from the municipality? How does that work?
So through the chair to the councillor, I'd recommend in this instance that if the committee wants to pursue that we look for a staff report. In this case, there'd be a few things that we would want to look at, including sort of the construction. The request is for the proponent to build the add-on. I think that's a question we'd want to look at. Is it the proponent, or does HRM build the shell and the proponent builds the inside? So there are a few different aspects to it. What is the assessment of the value of the public good that's being proposed, and then the questions that were raised around sort of the cost recovery piece over time. So I'd recommend a staff report if we want to proceed.
Okay. I'm not willing to ask for a staff report right now unless my colleagues are but okay. But thank you. I just wanted to know what the process would be.
Thank you, Councillor Purdy, and it is something that at a future meeting, a motion could come forward once you've researched it. Councillor Cuddle?
I was going to say I'd be willing to ask for a staff report given the presentation we just had, though I recognize there is a list of things that need to be considered. So I will take a pause on that and take the time to do the due diligence to make sure that the motion includes all the right aspects of what needs to be considered. But just wanted to let you know that that would be my intent. So thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you, Councillor Cuddle. Deputy Mayor Mancini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Cam, good to see you. Great season. The first round was exciting for the whole city, so well done. I'm not on the committee, but I have strong interest in the topics in today's agenda. Was there any discussion about when you're looking at design to have it 2 stories as opposed to one story in one block, with the opportunity to even expand in future years?
We didn't look at doing a two-story facility just because of the program that they have. It's certainly something we could look at if there was a reason to go up. We certainly could look at that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm glad Councillor Cuddle is going to request the staff report, as this committee should do when a presentation comes forward. So I look forward to that staff report and that conversation. There's a lot of questions we have, but the Mooseheads have been amazing to our community and in putting us on the map on many different occasions. One of my favorite things to do is to come out of the Scotiabank Centre after a game and look down Argyle Street and feel the buzz and see the excitement in our community. And there's people from all over the municipality and beyond that comes to check out the Moosehead. So I'm glad. Thank you, Councillor, for willing to do that. And Councillor, happy birthday.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor St. Amand.
Thank you. This is getting old. Thank you, Madam Chair. My voice is still gone, but I'll do my best here. First, great idea. I would support a motion for a staff report. One of the things that I'm particularly interested in this case is how it affects the naming rights on the property, because we're effectively talking about expanding a facility that already has naming rights. We're arguably adding to the value of the naming rights that have already been conferred. So what's the expiry of the current term of that naming right opportunity? How does this impact the value that is delivered to the corporate entity that it has secured that naming right? Is there an opportunity for the gym to be treated as its own thing, and therefore it has its own naming rights? Maybe a private partnership opportunity arising from this type of facility, being that it's purpose-built. So these are considerations that I'd like to see included in the staff report. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. So no further names on the list. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and thank you, Cam. I know you'll look forward to seeing a motion at a future meeting. And Deputy Mayor's back. Item number 6 on our agenda is the Wanderers Block Functional Plan, and we do have a staff presentation. Our manager. Pardon? Oh, you switched the titles. Oh, okay. So our staff that are here today, Carol Roberts, the landscape architect, and Richard Harvey, manager of policy and planning. Welcome, Carol.
Hello, I am Carol Koziak Roberts, and I'm a landscape architect with the Policy and Planning Group with Parks and Recreation. I will be presenting the Wanderers Block Functional Plan, and this presentation will include a summary of the proposals that have been brought forward for the Wanderers grounds, the key findings from the work done to date, the 3 site design options and their respective site redevelopment implications and costs, and considerations and next steps. So on January 2024, Regional Council adopted the Halifax Common Master Plan with the direction to complete detailed planning of the Wanderers Block. And there were many competing interests and proposals being brought forward for this area, including proposals for a permanent soccer stadium, a botanical conservatory, and an expansion for the Halifax Lancers equestrian facility. It was recognized that more detailed planning was needed to form a better understanding of spatial constraints and redevelopment implications. Staff indicated that while a detailed review of the Wanderers Block was needed, accommodating all the varied interests and proposals would be challenging. So the Wanderers Block is part of the Halifax Common, and it was one of the subject sites areas addressed in the master plan. The block is made up of the municipally owned property that is referred to as the Wanderers Grounds and the provincially owned property that contains the Nova Scotia Museum of Natural History and the Hospital Parkade. Within this block, there's a unique collection of tenants and public attractions, which include the museum, the Halifax Lancers, the Wanderers Lawn Bowling Club, the Municipal Parks Depot and the Horticulture Greenhouses, the Powerhouse Drop-In Youth Centre, and the Wanderers Field, where Halifax's two professional soccer teams, the Halifax Wanderers and the Halifax Tides, currently play their home matches. So there are three proposals for the Wanderers grounds that are addressed in the functional plan. The first is the request from the Halifax Lancers for more space to grow their programming. They wish to expand their programming for their horse riding school and therapy programs, which would see them lease more space on the Wanderers grounds to build a second indoor riding arena, new stables for 12 more horses, and more outdoor paddock space. The Lancers lease their facility from the municipality at below market rates and handle their own operations and programming. And the municipality is responsible for the major building maintenance and recapitalization. There are currently around 200 members in their programs, and this expansion would increase the membership by 67 riders in their junior and adult riding programs and 48 riders in their therapy riding programs. The increase in paid memberships would then help subsidize and grow their equine therapy wellness programs. The second proposal is to build a botanical conservatory for the public gardens. So Robert Pace of the Halifax Public Gardens Foundation made a presentation to CPAD in November of 2022. He outlined a proposal for a Victorian-style botanical conservatory building to enhance the visitor experience of the public gardens and provide enjoyment of horticulture year-round. To achieve this, it was proposed that the Lawn Bowling Club and Parks Depots and greenhouses could be relocated elsewhere. At the time, he indicated that there was federal and provincial interest in funding this project. In a previous staff report to Council, it was identified that while the proposal has merit, there's still a need to keep the core horticulture services that support the public gardens. And that perhaps through the redevelopment of the horticulture complex, we can take a look at providing more visitor access and education programming as well. The third proposal is for a permanent stadium at the Wanderers grounds. So Derek Martin, president of the Sports and Entertainment Atlantic and the Halifax Wanderers Football Club, made a presentation to CPAD in September of 2023 to have a permanent stadium at the Wanderers grounds. So this would include building permanent grandstands and increasing the stadium capacity to 8,500 with an option to expand over 10,000 as the market grows. There would be building, permanent washrooms, concession stands, locker rooms, and also having permanent utility hookups for sewer, water, and electrical services. The stadium would be built and owned by HRM, and Derek was open to discussions on potential financing contributions. At the CPAD meeting, Derek presented a concept site plan developed in collaboration with the Halifax Lancers, the Wanderers Lawn Bowling Club, and proponents of the Public Gardens Conservatory. However, the plan did not include the needs of the park operations groups who also share the site. So the municipality engaged Fowler, Bald, and Mitchell to develop the functional plan for the Wanderers block. And the work involved a collaborative planning exercise with all the tenant groups and proponents, and also municipal groups from the Parks Sportsfields West, Horticulture West, Youth Services at the Powerhouse, and active transportation planning regarding a potential bikeway infrastructure along Bell Road. Stakeholder engagement also included staff from the Natural History Museum and the two soccer teams. So in scope for this project was to document the functional needs and spatial requirements for each of the groups and facilities, and to understand how all these various proposals and uses could fit spatially within the area. To also determine an optimal and maximum sizes for a stadium that could fit within the Wanderers grounds, develop several site design concepts, and also do some costing of an order of magnitude at this pre-design stage. What was not in scope for the plan were the financial and funding components of the proposals. Any market analysis or economics development studies for a stadium, or even looking at alternative site locations for any of the proposals or current uses. From the planning work, there were several key findings. It was found that there was no one scenario that meets all the stated desires. There would need to be trade-offs or compromises between the various proposals. Advancing any proposal individually would be challenging, as it would require changes to other facilities and significant site redevelopment. There's a large combined sewer main that diagonally runs through the site, which we can't build on top of or design around. So any facility redevelopment, new buildings or grandstands, would mean relocating the underground pipeline, preferably to the adjacent streets. It was also found that the Wanderers Grounds site could support a stadium size of 8,600 fixed seats, but future expansion for a capacity of over 10,000 seats is not possible unless facilities or buildings are relocated or additional land from the museum site is acquired. Parking would need to be significantly reduced through the site, and this includes parking for municipal staff and the tenants. So the site design concepts were narrowed down to 3 options which best represent the opportunities and trade-offs. But regardless of which option, there are substantial costs associated with the site redevelopment. So the concept plans were developed with several parameters set by the municipality and success criteria that was identified through the tenant consultation process. And these included that any site redevelopment should stay within the municipal portion of the Wanderers Grounds, on the Wanderers Grounds. The Powerhouse and the Lancers Barn, which are registered heritage buildings, would be safeguarded, and the core horticulture operations that support the public gardens would remain. There's also the success criteria that the tenants identified was that the plan would be developed together with all the stakeholders and that all the current tenants would remain on the Wanderers Grounds. So there are consistent approaches within the 3 options that you'll see. And it's one, the combined sewer pipeline is that you can see that's diagonally across the site would be relocated. So this is the sanitary sewer that from the museum and also the hospital. So it's a major piece of infrastructure. The current space that the municipal parks operations is reduced by combining the park sports fields and the horticulture groups together within a new horticulture complex. And what this does is make space more available for the other uses. The Lawn Bowling Club remains, but the facility is relocated on the site. And the youth center's outdoor programming space at the front of the Powerhouse would be relocated to the back to make space for potential AT infrastructure along Bell Road. So in option 1, the space made available by consolidating the park's facilities is gained by the Halifax Lancers. So they gain more space for a second riding arena, stables for 12 more horses, and larger outdoor riding ring and more outdoor paddock space. But in this option, there is no space for a botanical conservatory. The lawn bowling facility is moved beside the Powerhouse in Front Sackville Street, and the soccer stadium shown in this option has 8,000 fixed seats and a sports field sized for the minimum play for rugby. The sports field has been shortened from its current length and shifted towards Summer Street, which frees up more space in the eastern portion of the site for the other proposals. So option 2 shows a version of the stadium with more fixed seats by having a shorter field that would accommodate soccer only and not rugby. Again, the field has been shifted towards Summer Street. The space made available is now used for a botanical conservatory, which is located beside the Powerhouse. The Lancers gained some additional space to improve their facility for the horses, but not enough space for a second riding arena, which would allow them to increase their programming. The Lawn Bowling Club is located closer to Bell Road, which provides a better balance of public exposure and privacy from the street. And in the third option, the stadium is rotated to the desired north-south orientation for soccer. This opens up more space in the eastern part of the site for both the conservatory and the full expansion for the Lancers. But to stay within the municipal property bounds, the stadium has less fixed seats at 7,100. If additional lands were acquired from the museum property, a stadium of 9,000 to 10,000 fixed seats could be possible. The Lancers' current riding arena would need to be relocated, increasing the costs. A larger botanical conservatory is shown on Sackville Street, and the horticulture operations are in behind it. In this option, the conservatory is more visibly prominent from the public gardens. So option 3 achieves more of the goals, but would require all the facilities to be redeveloped together. And in fact, all these options mean big redevelopment for any of them to go forward, any piece. So the municipality engaged a professional quantity surveyor, A.W. Hooker, to do an order of magnitude cost estimate for the 3 design options broken down by facility. And just I wanted to make a note that in preparing these cost estimates, a construction date of 2029 was assumed, and the costing that you see here includes contingencies for the price escalations of about 15.9%. This is an order of magnitude cost estimate that is done at a planning or pre-design stage, so it applies much higher design contingencies at 25%. The unit rates are based sort of on mid-range costs for the type of design, construction, and materials. And differences in cost between options reflect differences in facility sizes, not differences in the quality of material or the design features. So the full site redevelopment ranges between 116 million to 122 million. The stadium ranges between 77 million and 92 million, depending on the number of fixed seats in each option. The cost estimate for the Parks Horticulture Complex redevelopment would be around 12 million in all the options. And relocating the lawn bowling facility, it ranges between 3 million and 4 million. The cost varying with the size of the new clubhouse. And estimates for a new conservatory building that is separate from the horticulture functions ranges between 4 million and 5.6 million. So estimates for the Lancers expansion is 4.5 million option 2, which includes the renovation of the Parks Depot building, 12.7 million in option 1, which includes the addition of a second riding arena, and 20 million option 3, which includes the replacement of their existing arena along with the program elements from the other 2 options. So the recommendations in the staff report are looking for direction for next steps, but not necessarily recommending one option or proposal over the other options. So the first recommendation is to consider the facility needs for the redevelopment of the horticulture complex and the Parks Depot on the Wanderers grounds, including relocating some of the operations elsewhere. So the horticulture greenhouses and buildings are nearing their end of life, and we're going to be looking at having to recapitalize them at some future date. There's currently no space to relocate park staff to other locations, so consideration for parks needs should be included in other depot facility planning, such as the Macintosh Depot. And the redevelopment of the parks facilities would need to proceed at first before any other proposals, say from the Lancers or the Conservatory, could go ahead. The second recommendation is to allow more time for funding and financial interests to be determined and expressed to the municipality from the tenants, proponents, and other orders of government. We expect this to occur over the next 8 months, and then staff would prepare a report for council with a recommended redevelopment approach that includes like the assessment of the financial feasibility and considerations of its priority in the context of capital priorities and infrastructure deficits. So the next steps would be council's decision on whether to increase existing services and future costs of operations, and determination of these capital investments against existing priorities and infrastructure deficits in the capital plan, such as Needham Pool, Dixon Center, St. Mary's Boat Club, or Captain Williams Bragg Complex, just to name a few. So this concludes the presentation, and we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. That was a very thorough presentation. I'm just looking at Councillor Cuddle. Councillor Cuddle, would you like to put the motion on the floor and start the questions? Thanks.
I can sure do that, Madam Chair. Sorry, looking for the executive summary recommendation. Here we go. Am I reading the recommendation in the in the report? Where's this? Sorry,
It's on page 3 in the report, and it's on your agenda.
Okay, I got the recommendation here. I just want to make sure it's the right one. It's recommended that Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee recommend that Halifax Regional Council direct the Chief Administrative Officer to 1. Consider facility needs for the redevelopment of the Horticulture Complex and Parks Depot on the Wanderers Block as outlined in this report, including the relocation of those municipal uses that may be suitably accommodated at other locations through future business plans and capital budgets as outlined in this report. And 2, confirm the interest and prospective funding contributions from tenants, proponents, and other orders of government to determine the viability of the uses and proposals as outlined in the functional plan and this staff report. And 3, return to Regional Council with a staff report with a recommended redevelopment approach, including an assessment of financial feasibility in consideration of its priority in the context of capital priorities and infrastructure deficits.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Purdy. Councillor Cuddle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh my gosh. Okay, so many questions. So I'm kicking this off. I don't know how my other colleagues feel around the table here, but there's a lot to unpack here because you've packed a lot in to a very small piece of property. I'm wondering, I'll get to my question at the end, but my initial response here is that we're asking a lot of a small piece of property with uses that are in conflict, quite frankly. And I am surprised that the public gardens weren't included in the stakeholder consultation, even though they're not on the exact block. They're a long-standing established adjacent use that obviously is impacted with whatever happens on the Wanderers block. I think that might have been an oversight on our part not to include them in the process. From a planning perspective, from my planning perspective, how I feel about this is that we're asking too much of that space. And with the increased density that we're putting in and around this part of the city, specifically, when you look at what's going up there at Roby and Spring Garden Road and throughout the rest of the downtown, there's a lot of demand on our fields, a lot of demand for public use on our fields, for open space, for reprieve from the density. If we look what's happening in other big cities, reclaiming that public space, that open public space, becomes more and more of a challenge as you see a city redeveloped. And so I strongly feel that this is not the right place for a stadium, period. And I'm wondering if in your consideration of this plan, if you considered the context and the change in uses that were happening in and around the site and did an open space assessment of not just, looking at the uses on that site, but what the city needs, what the community around it needs in order to support future populations. I'm also wondering if any other locations were considered for a stadium. I mean, what I see here is just a series of compromises for everybody and big questions, even looking at the options about, the variance in price for, let's say, the Lancers from, I think it was in scenario one, looking at, and 12 million and 4 million up to $20 million, and the burden that places on other organizations. So, I mean, I'm feeling like I'm feeling like we don't have the right solution here, and we're a growing city. We need a bigger stadium. The scenarios here aren't even hitting what is being asked for by the professional sports organizations. They want to see an expanded stadium, and what we're presenting are actually reduced in size. We are a growing city. We're investing heavily in things like bus rapid transit, cycling infrastructure. We don't have to squeeze everything in that area, particularly where it compromises the use of the public gardens. And also we have the cemetery, the historic cemetery, to the other side, the horses, the botanical gardens. It doesn't seem like a good marriage. And I would really like us to consider where else within the peninsula, or at least within the urban center, could we put a stadium that is properly built, that is expanded in size, with doubling our population from 500,000 to 1 million. Like, there's only going to be increased demand for attending events and increased demand for hosting other sports games. I know, for example, rugby often uses this facility as well for concerts of that scale. We don't have a facility like that. So I'm putting that all out there right now, that I don't like this. I don't think this is the right plan, and too many compromises, and we need to think a bit bigger about where future facilities go. So I did throw a couple questions out there. I don't know if you caught them, but one was about the consideration of the context and the need for open space, the public gardens, and were other sites for a stadium even considered? Thank you.
Thank you for your question through Madam Chair to the councillor. So there are a lot of things that are going in this space, and I think what this report did is just take a look at what does it actually mean for information for us to now to kind of settle those questions. Can all these things be put in place? We did not look at other locations for any of the current uses or for a new stadium in this thing. It was just looking at a fit. And I think now we can say, yeah, it is very crowded. There's a lot of things going in there. If you look at relocating, any of these other things in other locations, it gives relief to that site, definitely. I mean, looking at the context for open space, I mean, this was done through the Halifax Common Master Plan that we had looked at. I mean, we had originally, when we brought in a draft to public in 2019, we were looking at, well, if we, consolidated the Parks Depot, we were looking at, can that become more space for the public? And it was, I think, where this kind of ended up is that there were a lot of other interests and proposals being put forward. And so we were asked to say, well, what's the fit? What does the implications mean? And I think we can now kind of begin to take this from a first step and kind of know that, and then what are these next things? Are we looking for other pieces? Also looking at, we haven't done public engagement on these things. I think with the significant amount of investment to redevelop this site, I think we need to have more clarity on, the interests and funding before we go out and do, start looking at directions or start having some more engagements with, other stakeholders and the general public at large.
Thank you, Carol.
Come back.
Thank you, Councillor Cottle. Yes, certainly. Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Carol, for the report. Okay, I got things written everywhere. So just on the stadium concept. Okay, so a couple questions on that. One, the cost. I read it in a news article. I think Derek had said that he can bring a better cost than what HRM provided in this report, and the Lancers also did the same. So wondering why HRM's proposed cost is so much higher than, I guess, what the proponents themselves are actually able to bring on the table. And how does that work in something like this? Like, does HRM have the final say in who the contractor is, or do the leasers have a say in that? How does that all work? About the Wanderers grounds field, I thought there was something special about this field not being turf, that it's grass, and that's kind of unique. And the new stadium, of course, would necessitate, okay, that word just completely escaped my mind, but would require a turf. In one of the options, it would only facilitate one sport, which would be soccer. To spend this much money on a sport stadium, to me, it would make sense that it would accommodate all sports, not just one or two. And I was recently at the FCM conference, and one of my, Councillor St. Amand was with me on the little field trip that we went to Lansdowne. And I mean, their stadium complex there has massive commercial community and residential density right there. They've created kind of like what Councillor Cuddle's been talking about for years, like a place-making. They've made their stadium into a place-making thing, and it is generating income, and the stakeholders are able to contribute, tens of millions towards the stadium, and they're in the midst of beginning, I guess, a new refresh renovation to make it even better. And something like that, if we're going to talk stadium, then we should do it right and enable all sports to be played. From what I understand from the report, this Wanderers, no matter how we position it on the block, wouldn't ever be able to accommodate CFL. So I think that's a big negative right there, just from the starting block. Wondering too, so I guess you answered the question about community engagement. We're wondering why Friends of the Public Gardens were not engaged, but I think I heard you say that the public engagement has not truly started yet. But it would be very important, I think, to engage these long-standing stakeholders that truly do have the best interests of their treasured piece of HRM heritage to look after. I'm wondering too why, and this isn't like either way, but the botanical conservatory idea, why that was given equal weight in this to the long-standing lease tenants on this land, like have been there for over a century, like our Lancers, like our lawn bowlers, and even the Wanderers, because they've been there for years, and they are a beloved aspect of our city. So I'm just wondering why that would be given equal weight in something like this for a space in a very constricted place, even though it is a beautiful idea. And the fact that professional sports are not a core municipal service, that was kind of mentioned in the report. So what would be the benefit to HRM? What would be the financial benefit for HRM? What would we get for this? I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I hope I have all of them, but if not, just let me know. So we were talking about questioning how the cost estimates we're looking. So this is just kind of like your first look at what this is, and it's just based on square footage and looking at other typical samples of other things that have looked at. So can we do a stadium at a better price, the Lancers with their arena? Yes. I mean, if we start getting into more detail, you can definitely see cost savings, look at what's really needed, what's not needed. What this cost estimate did is it kind of kept it open that, for instance, like if you had a modular system that was done for the stadium, that first price, if it doesn't, because we have such a tight site, that you may not be able to fit a modular system in. It's like your IKEA kitchen you try to get that in an old kitchen. So we just said, well, this would be a traditional build. The same thing is we costed artificial turf instead of natural grass. So you would have like a $3 million capital savings if you went natural grass, but we haven't made those decisions yet. So there's lots of, the next step is you get into, more concept design, more detailed design, that you can really refine what those costs are. But this gives us sort of just that order of magnitude understanding with that. So you're right, like the stadium, what we looked at is what can actually fit on that site. And yes, we don't have space to have larger fields for more sports. So that is one of the implications and the findings in this exercise that we've done is like, what can you do and what can't you do? With the conservatory, I think what we were doing is we were keeping everything as an open possibility. So can we fit a botanical conservatory? In some of the schemes we can, but in others we can't. So this was an exercise in trying to see what all fits, seeing that what all the tenants can stay on the site and what is the possible based on the limited space that we do have. So I think our next step are all these questions that you've brought up is where are we going to go next? Is this the right stadium model? What do these financial contributions are? What is all that? That's kind of going forward to the next step in having those discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purdy. Councillor St. Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Here we go again. I'll give it my best shot. So my thinking is a little bit of a hybrid between Councillor Purdy and Cuddle. First, the opportunity that Councillor Purdy and I had to go through the Lansdowne and have this version 2.0 described to us. First, the version 1.0 wasn't half bad either. It was really clever use of space with considerable density around it, and it really used it. It was a placemaking exercise. Had considerable parking within the confines of the space, even though it was completely invisible because they built it all underground. And the version 2.0, as it was explained to us, was paying for itself because and it was at a very escalated cost. Going from memory, I think they said it was a $400 million project, but it was paying for itself over the life of the project because they were making creative decisions about how to repurpose the land that they had there. So they were moving a facility out, adding to the stadium that they had. The stadium did support multiple uses, which was, I think, probably an important part of their decision-making process in making the investment in the first place. So I'm curious to know, when we look at future service communities as sort of that 30,000-foot view, where do we want to go next? How do we plan accordingly in order to provide for all the services that are necessary to support what our plans are for that longer term? In this case, it does feel a little bit like we are trying to shoehorn in based on the utilization historically, as opposed to if we were just looking at a blank slate, what would we do? So it is heartening to hear that some of that assessment is part of what's forecast for the next step anyway. But I would like to suggest that we take that 30,000-foot view really seriously and look at where the opportunities may lie so that flexibility in public infrastructure is a tenet that I think we need to try to hold on to. Purpose-built, single-use type applications are no longer really, in my mind anyway, the best utilization of public funds. The more we can be flexible for the future and do something once that has a variety of potential uses, both public and private, that's where I'd like to focus our efforts because I think we'll get much more value for our dollar in taking that approach. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. I don't believe I heard a question in there, though. So, Carol, you're off the hook. Yes or no as far Just for Councillor Saidaman. Thank you. Councillor Purdy.
Oh, okay. Just wondering if you could answer the benefit to the municipality question. Like, what would be our financial benefit from this moving forward, if that is able to be answered at all? And also, okay, this might be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why the redevelopment of the Wanderers stadium? Why is that needed? Is it able to continue as it is while looking at redevelopment options for the rest of the site on that block? Just asking that question. I know it is a beloved sport, exciting event for so many of our residents. And I'd also just want to take this opportunity to just put a plug for how unique the Lancers are in the heart of our city. The historic longevity, the community benefit, even for the folks that don't directly benefit from their program. And I just want to reiterate what our presenter said today. They have a 10-year waiting list. So, I mean, that's quite significant. But for pedestrians walking down the street, kids going to school, to see a horse, to be able to even pat a horse if the horse comes over to say hello, this to me is priceless. You can't put a price tag on that. This is so unique, and just want to be able to protect that and protect the interests of that historic what we have there, and to be able to increase as needed. But I guess my question was the financial benefit of doing this, and why does the Wanderers stadium need to be redeveloped?
Thank you for the question. So I'll defer the financial benefit maybe to someone else, but I can answer the stadium, like if it stays status quo. So with these facilities, you could continue to have just the field. I mean, where we sort of need upgrades is definitely on the utility infrastructure there. We don't have current water or sewer hookup right now. So those are kind of things that if we wanted to continue to use that as a venue and to be able to have like locker rooms or things, those would at least be things that you would want to do. But the other pieces, like on the site, like they're not really dependent on whether that you have a stadium that could be redeveloped or not redeveloped, whereas other things like the Lancers building expansion, it would have significant site redevelopment implications, because you would need to relocate that sewer for where we want to put that, and we would have to invest in recapitalizing our horticulture complex for that. So whatever this is, there would be significant municipal investment to be able to provide for that ask.
The financial benefit to the municipality moving forward.
Wait on that. Yep. Through you, Chair, to the councillor. In terms of the economic or financial benefit, it depends on a lot of factors. I would say, for example, if a use were bringing in a lot of people from out of town, then that would bring sort of money into the community. It can increase commercial activity in an area, those sorts of things. In terms of the return, like a financial return, specific financial return to the municipality, it depends heavily on what the investment in that facility is up front, if other orders of government were contributing, or if some of the tenants were contributing, and then what sort of going forward, what the arrangements are in terms of charging rent or facility rent, concessions, those sorts of things. So, it depends, I guess, from my perspective, on a financial point of view, it depends heavily on what the initial investment would be, whether that can be recovered, and what the return is.
Okay, thank you. And so, like, this type of information will come forward in the next iteration of this. Yeah, great, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Purdy. Councillor Cuddle.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So good discussion, and appreciate the perspectives. I didn't go on that tour of Lansdowne, but it warms my heart there, Councillor Purdy. I hear you say that what I've been saying for years now is actually like landed in a way that has some meaning through that example. And thank you for bringing that forward. That the fact that this could be a placemaking opportunity is a real one, and I think we need to be thinking about that. There's a myth that if we relocate this stadium, that it's going to really impact businesses downtown. Businesses downtown, they're doing very well. Tourism is beyond expectations. Our downtown is doing well, and there's other ways that we're investing in downtown to support those businesses. But there's opportunities here to support new businesses. We're a growing city, and those future economic opportunities are something that we also need to keep in mind. The ones that don't exist yet, but could exist if this is done properly. Just to kind of go through my list again, the context around this site is about to change dramatically with the approval of several major new developments. And that's going to increase more demand on a need for open space, for public recreation facilities, and that open space plan. We don't have an open space plan for the regional center yet, but I just intuitively based on kind of planning principles that is a real consideration that we need to be thinking about. You can't buy back more space in the urban core, particularly in that area. It's at a premium. The conflict between the long-standing existing uses, such as the gardens and the Lancers, and the stadium, and that's not just in terms of noise and crowds and the impact on programming, like we heard in the public gardens. It's also on design. I mean, I'm trying to imagine having a horticultural conservatory that backs on to, which faces the back of stadium seating. I mean, just even looking at those, and I know that, architects and designers can work wonders about trying to mitigate that, but nonetheless, you're going to have facing on the northwestern side there, where the sun sets in the summer, you're going to have your conservatory behind stadium seating. The programming of the site is super challenging, and I don't think it lends itself well to the marriage of those kind of purposes and design. The significant cost in the infrastructure relocation. I mean, if we can, again, that's a cost that's going to be borne by us for doing that, and without really an understanding on what the return is. The growing, as I said, the growing city, we need a mid-sized stadium that can serve broader purposes looking forward, not just the purposes of today. And I think that includes having other sports. It includes having, music concerts and other things that require big trucks, equipment, a different type of design. And I just feel that there's too many compromises in this stadium design to really meet anyone's needs. And
Councillor Cuddle, you're
so I'm going to recommend
way over time, but
thank you.
you could
I
come.
only have 3 minutes.
You could come back.
I've got a lot of thoughts here. Thank you. So I'm going to make a motion that we.
You could come back. How about we'll just let.
I can't come back. We're not in the committee of the whole. We're not in the committee of the whole. But so I'd like to put a motion on the floor, and that should reset my clock.
Is it we have a motion on the floor now?
Well, I would like to propose recommendation 4. How do I do that, Simon?
So I can just briefly speak to that. We have looked at the motion for standing committee. I believe that looking at the recommendations, there is still a need based on the staff report to get direction on part 1 of the motion if we were to explore alternative 4. So if it were the desire of council to proceed in this direction, what we would probably recommend would be to request to split the vote to consider part 1 of the motion first, and then parts 2 and 3 together as a separate vote. If parts 2 and 3 of the motion were defeated, it would then be available to standing committee to move alternative 4. I believe that is consistent with staff's needs in terms of the direction that they're seeking, but we'll pause for comment.
Okay, so I'll wait for the vote before I put that on, but that would be my intent, and I encourage people to look at recommendation 4 in the staff report.
Okay, so we're good. We know that we're going to split the motion when it comes to the votes. We will vote on item 1 and then 2 and 3 together. And should that fail, then Councillor Cuddle will come back with alternative 4. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Mancini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm not on the committee, but I have a strong interest in this topic today. First of all, let's talk about the Wanderers grounds, the pop-up stadium pilot. Huge success, major success. There were people in this chamber I'm looking at right now, they're totally opposed to us doing this on this site. Former councillor that sat next to me here, Wayne Mason, went to bat, and a lot of his residents opposed us testing and piloting on this site because they said there was going to be traffic, there was going to be noise, there was going to be disruption, behavior. None of that has happened. In fact, it's had a huge impact to the downtown, and it's been great. Now we have 2 major sporting events that are there. Sporting teams, the Tides last night, by the way, just had their first win. Go Tides, doing well. So huge success. You know, the question you asked, Councillor Purdy, well, why do we have to redesign it? Why can't we just leave it alone? Because it's not a real stadium. We had the Canadian national women's team here last year in November play here against Brazil, 2 of the best teams in the world here. On TV, looked great on TV. They're changing and shipping containers. They had to use Johnny on the spots. There's no running water. It's not a real stadium. So a real stadium is definitely needed. I agree. This site downtown, that when you look around, major sites are around North America. It's in the downtown core. Our challenge is we don't have a lot of space in the downtown core for sure. It's funny. Councillor White and I just came from a committee meeting and at the committee meeting was a presentation by the regional event strategic update. One of the things they said that when they're doing their engagement with the community is that we have a culture of saying no in our municipality right off the bat versus, well, how can we make it happen? And I think this presentation, and thank you, Carol, for the work you've done, is here's some ways we can make it happen. And so I'm hoping that, what the committee is the actual the actual motion that's on the floor is what is approved, so we can further have that conversation before we go to any alternative. It's a huge opportunity for us right here. Our city is truly growing, and we need to get this right. But we've been talking about a stadium for way before my time at council. Even if Councillor Headsby was here, and he's been here since dirt was invented. But how do we finally get to a conclusion on this stadium conversation? Look, former Mayor Kelly and former Premier McDonald messed that up because the Commonwealth Games we would have had a stadium. That's my own opinion, but I just say that we should approve what's in front of us now. Let staff do their work, and we can come back from there. Artificial turf is the way to go because it gives us more flexibility for concerts and other things and other sports too. Because right now the turf is some of the best in the whole league, but it's grass and you can't do anything other than it. So I agree with that. So, I would like to be firm and interested. I think the mayor is still here. I bet there's some conversations with our friends in the province because they want to see something here too. There's no questions here, Carol. Thanks for the work. I just give my 2 cents worth, and hopefully the committee will approve the motion that's in front of us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Mancini. Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Coming in kind of blind to this, hadn't read anything beforehand, so just absorbing. For me, I do love having the facility,
the energy here downtown. But I am concerned about the conflict with so many things happening. I wonder, I guess my questions are, why keep hanging on to this botanical gardens thing, or conservatory? Because it's just an added pressure. I definitely want to see the Lancers get what they're looking for. They've been there forever, and they're an amazing group. I want to know more about if we do have a stadium or whatever facility there, it needs to be used by community. It can no longer be just a private thing. Like looking at Citadel High using it, looking at community being able to get in there is really important if we had something more important, permanent. And I think just looking at the Lancers communication, I think what I was reading is that, like, if we've still got these three options, it's hard for people to express what their interest would be in moving forward. So, okay, yeah, I'd like to hear about hanging. We just still have so many options. Like, how are we moving forward after today? How does this move us forward? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, there are a lot of things in there, and I think what we were trying to illustrate in all these different options were what the implications were, what the trade-offs were. So yes, if you do have a conservatory, that does mean that, you know, other things on there, it takes space. Like any one of these pieces takes space, and so that's kind of the next step about, you know, what we go forward with. You know, what we can, where the funding is and how that is happening. So, and also looking at, you know, the stadium, right now, the size of that, you could have it for like soccer. You know, lacrosse could also work there, and you could also design the field so that you would have rugby. But if we were looking at like football, like even a Citadel football, it's right now it's too short, and so it would be something that if you wanted to lengthen that field again, other things go. So I mean, what this is doing is it's just giving that piece of what should be in, what should be out. And these are discussions that, you know, are the next steps of where we go forward, because we haven't in this one sort of determined, well, this is a better use than that use. It's all just for information so that we can start having a better understanding of what's possible in the site and start looking at what those next steps are.
Thank you, Councillor White. And in terms of next steps, excuse me, whatever motion comes forward today that is approved, it's a recommendation to Regional Council. And so, Councillor White, then there'll be another opportunity for a fuller discussion at Regional Council as well. Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for being late. I had a personal appointment that I had to be at. I originally had excused myself as a conflict of interest for some of this. I was anticipating it. My son Tyler Kent has been the physiotherapist for the Wanderers for a number of years, and I just wanted to make sure, but I don't have to now. He's not directly involved. I think very strong. I missed the presentation. I have reviewed what we have. I feel strongly that we can create an environment here that is situated now, take advantage of that situation, that space. We can work with our partners around the space, the Lancers for sure. I think right now we're very privileged, I think, to have a strong men's soccer team and usage, and now our new women's soccer. They need to have a stadium that is in a capacity, and I don't know how to explain it, that will attract, and the support that will attract and really can become a very state-of-the-art space for other teams to come here and to host events. I do think that, and so I'm in favor of moving it forward, Madam Chair, according to the current motion. I know there's a lot more to say. I too think that Halifax does need some form of a larger stadium, as Councillor Cuddle has spoken to. But right now we have two professional teams that are contributing to our economy, that are contributing to our sense of hospitality and support for our sports, our young soccer players, for instance, our young football players, and in this case, I know that you're saying it doesn't fit, but they need these kinds of spaces where we are having professional players that they can look up to and aspire to. So I think that that comes with a proper stadium. I think we've done a good job with the pilot and pushing that forward. I also think that there's nothing wrong with that space being co-location for other things. Like, I think that matters in a city, and that can be done in a city core center. And so I don't know if this, honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm speaking to the way that I should be, but I wanted everybody to know that I believe in what has been presented here. I know there's more work to be done, and then I'd like to see this move on to council within this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Deputy Mayor Mancini.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I have to go off to another committee meeting, but I just want to respond to Councillor Purdy that asked about economic impact, and it's a very good question. It's yet to be determined, but the potential is there. I mean, the Scotiabank Centre, on average, the economic impact to our community is $50 million each year. The Convention Centre, the economic impact to our community is $50 million each year. This has a similar type of potential, right? Once it's worked out. I also feel big vision here. I look at Maggie McDonald that, once we actually determine what we do here and we build something here, and that should be a third facility that Events East runs. It makes perfect sense in my opinion. So I leave my 2 cents. I leave it to the good hands of the committee. Thank you very much. I do have to go. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We see no other names, so excuse me, we would call for the question on the first item. Yes, item 1. So this question is called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. So there are 5 members. Councillor St. Amand, did you vote? Okay. So is that a unanimous? Okay, thanks. Sorry, I just didn't see your hand. I should not have sat next to you. I think I'm getting that. So our next vote is on item 2 and 3 combined. So we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. So we have 4 votes yes, opposed, 1 opposed. The motion carries. Thank you so very much. If I might just ask, so when this comes to Regional Council, it will come with a presentation? Hopefully, that would be great.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's something that can be requested, a presentation at Regional Council, but we'll defer to staff.
Certainly up to agenda review, but
Yeah, so it'd be good if it came with a presentation. Thank you so very much, everyone. It was a very interesting and informative morning. And so now we ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved by Councillor Purdy, did I hear? Yes. We adjourn at 11:49 a.m. Thank you so very much, everyone. Well, we made that easy for you today. Well, Simon's very good. He knows his stuff. Hey, Simon.